you're a wrestler, and whether you just got started wrestling or you've been wrestling for years, the key to being a good wrestler is you have to do the fundamentals well. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Quinn Mighty Q Redmond. I wrestled for 14 years, and I now currently coach and train athletes. And this is a quick fundamental tip on stance and motion. So getting it started off, the main thing with a wrestling stance is it's just like any other athletic stance. Whether you play football or you played baseball, all of the athletic stances that you have across multiple sports, wrestling is the exact same. It's going to be pretty basic, pretty fundamental. It's going to be the same thing. So you have to be in balance. Your feet are going to be about shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider. And then you have to bend your knees, keep your butt down, chest up. Those are basic fundamentals. But what it's going to look like is this is a squared stance. Squared stance meaning my feet are going to be even. And all I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to bend my knees, let my butt go down, and keep my hands up. So in terms of a squared stance, it's just right here. This is a squared stance. The squared stance is exactly that. I'm square, my feet are even, my knees are even my hands and my shoulders. I'm just one block. I am square to my opponent. And the thing here, if you want to think about like your hands and where your head is, if you've ever played football and you ever caught a football, your hands go up like this. That is the position that you want to be in for wrestling. My elbows are tucked, they're in tight, and then I'm just right here. So my knees are bent, my butt's down, my chest is up, my head is up, my hands are up, because in wrestling, your head is the first line of defense, but it's also kind of your hands, because if someone shoots in on a shot, my head is going to be a lot better of defense than my hands are, because your hands are technically the second line, and then you get into your sprawl. But if your head is all the way up here in this position and you're trying to wrestle like this, people are going to easily get to your legs. But also, if you're wrestling like this and your head is way over and you have your butt way up in the air, you're going to get snapped down to your face really easy as well. So the key with the stance is always, like I said earlier, it's about being in balance. So a squared stance, you're going to have your feet a little bit shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider, depending on your frame, and you're just going to bend your knees. So if you just did a squat, that's what a squat is. So your squat position is the same as a squared stance, except instead of leaving your chest and staying tall and going like this for a squat, we're actually just going to tilt our chest a little bit, and now we're going to be in a regular athletic position. So you can think about if you played shortstop in baseball or any infield position, and I had to field a ground ball, it's that same position. So a squared stance, think about fielding a ground ball, and instead of having your hands down to field the ground ball, just pick them up like you're catching a football. And that is going to be a squared stance. Now, we apply the squared stance sometimes if you're being a little defensive, but in most cases, you're actually not going to be in a squared stance very often, because when you're in a match, you're going to have motion, you're going to have movement involved. And when you start to attack and take your shots, whether it be a single or a double, you're going to want to have one foot forward versus the other. So this is my right foot. So I'm going to be in a right leg, lead leg stance. So that means that I'm not going to have my feet really close together. I'm still going to be about shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider, again, depending on your frame. Some of you guys will be a little bit closer, dependent on your frame, but you want to be a little bit wider than shoulder width. So kind of take, like, if I was in a squared stance, so my feet are square, I'm facing diagonal. If all I did was go from square, I just point my toes forward, but I keep my feet in the same spot, now I'm in a lead leg stance. So my left foot is probably about that far behind my right in terms of the front of my left foot and my right foot. They're actually pretty close. They're not the same, but I'm also not like this. I don't have my feet crazy apart. In a decent stance, this is right leg lead. So again, you can see me square on. My feet are about shoulder width, a little bit wider, and now the same thing goes. Bend your knees, butt down, chest up, hands up. Boom. This is a wrestling stance. This is the position we're looking for. If you want to have, so this is my right leg, this is my right elbow. My right elbow should be pretty close to that knee, and this is where we're at. So instead of resting into my knee, that's kind of a good measure, and boom. And now to know if you're close enough to the ground, you should be able to touch with one of your hands. You got to touch the ground. Now, you don't want to lean at your hips to be able to touch, but you should be able to easily touch the ground. And so the way to check is just boom. See? Just a little check, little check. And this is a good wrestling stance. If I move forward, my right foot goes first. Whichever foot is forward or whichever way you're moving, that foot goes first. So if I wanted to move to my right foot goes first. If I want to move back to my left foot moves first. Same thing for forward. And even circling, my right foot was the one that pivoted first. My right foot made the pivot and my body came behind it. I didn't I didn't cross my feet and then try to turn. I'm not stepping over, not bringing my feet together. I'm not, doing this. And at the end of the day, in wrestling, the reason I didn't say back up and I said circle is because we don't want to be backing up in a match. If someone's attacking into me, I can pivot out. If they're attacking this front foot, again, I can pivot out and see how I turn. I didn't just go straight back. I didn't run backwards. That is the key of having a good stance. If I'm up here and I'm like wrestling Greco in a Greco stance, someone can shoot to my legs, no problem. And now I'm going to have a difficult time sprawling, get my feet back. I'm going to have a difficult time having my hands go down, my head's out of position. They're going to be super easy to get in a shot. And so in this situation, if I'm in a bad stance, I'm just going to run backwards if someone shoots in on me, which is bad because then the ref's going to give you a stalling call, and then that's going to end up being 3 points for your opponent. Instead, again, basic fundamentals. We go from our squared stance, boom, feet are even, butt down, boom, right here, catch football. To move from this, step that foot forward and get a little bit lower. We're in a squared stance, a little bit lower. I'm ready to attack. I am ready to go. I'm not out of position. I'm not down here doing this crazy thing, because if you're one of those people that does that, you know what's going to happen. Either you're going to get your face smacked and snapped into the mat, or someone's going to just bull rush you. You're not going to be ready for it. You're going to be out of position. You're going to end up on your butt, and you're probably going to give up 5, well, now 6, because it's a 3-point takedown. You're going to give up the 3. You're then going to give up a 3 count because you're going to get put right to your back, and now you're down 6-0 if you don't get pinned. Being in a good stance, being in a good position is key. So this is the biggest thing. If you're a wrestler, you got to be in good position, but staying in good position involves having a lot of leg strength, and you're probably going to need to learn to work out. So if you need to, click this video right here.